And now, it's time for another Dice Tower review with Tom Vasel.
Folks, Battlelore 2nd Edition is really fun. It is a two-player game in the Commands and Colors system by Richard Borg, and I think it is the pinnacle of that system. I love it a lot, and I was really excited when I heard a new faction was coming out, the Undead faction. Today we're taking a look at an expansion pack that has the Undead faction in it, the Terror of the Mists. This is one of two. There's also the Heralds of Dreadfall, which I'll be taking a look at another video. You do not need to get both of them. You can just get one of them and you have a full-fledged faction, but you'll probably want to get both of them. So we're going to take a look and see what's inside this one. Here we go. Here you can see all the different plastic units that come in here. It's enough for a full army, but if you mix it with the other Undead faction, you can make yourself a pretty big Undead army. There's a lot of spikiness here. That's because it's a very bony type army. And this model itself, we'll take a closer look at that in a minute. In fact, hey, let's take a closer look at the units themselves. First, we have the Reanimates. These guys are in both sets. They're the basic minions, but I do like them because they can regenerate, and they have a really cool special ability of Legion. For each extra guy that you have, they do an extra attack. So they only have one attack, but with three guys there, that's a 4. They just get beat up more. It's almost a negative thing in a sense that they get weaker as you go along, but hey, if you can get more of them back. Then we have these, the Barghests. These are wolves, dire wolves. I believe I've seen nasty things like this show up in Descent before. These guys can move 3, but they can actually move 4 if they don't start adjacent to a unit. And then they can howl, which is cause panic in an enemy unit. Panic is just a real pain in the neck here. When a player orders a panic unit, they have to spend 2 lore to get rid of that panic token. And whenever a panic unit rolls the retreat symbol in combat, they're going to take damage. Sorry, I like these guys, but not as much as I like the Bone Horrors. The Bone Horrors are some of the most basic units in the game. They're unyielding. They don't retreat. And when you move them, they can only move 1, but you can pay a lore to move them an extra 2. They're just a solid unit that just keeps moving forward and forward. And sometimes I just want to play something that's not a lot of special abilities, which these guys don't have, but they don't retreat, so they go in there and fight to the death. Necromancers here. These guys can move somebody else, so they're kind of like a bit of a leader that you'll have as time goes by. And they can drain your opponent, basically make your opponent lose a lore and get one back. They're okay. They're powerful, and they have a good range for their attacks, so they're a nice ranged unit. When push comes to shove, I think I would take the Bone Horrors instead. Now the Banshee, which is an amazing model, okay? You think Banshees are nice ladies who sing loudly. Not this thing. There's 2 guys with chains. It's a cool model. It's horrifying. Shocking. Anyway, it can cause a retreat to each enemy unit adjacent to it. If an enemy takes 1 or more damage, you get lore, and friendly units next to it are supported. It's a cool unit. I don't know if I would use this one over the big unit and the other unit, which is basically a zombie dragon. This one, I think the model is really cool, and it is solid, has a lot of hit points, and hits pretty hard. So there is that. And of course, there's other stuff in this expansion. More tiles, headquarters, graveyards. Graveyards you can place on the board at the beginning. They cost 2, and when one of your undead friendly minion units is destroyed, you can bring them back, which is good. Always very useful. There's more of the setup cards, so that's fairly handy. But let's take a look here at some of the lore cards that come in this. You get a whole new lore deck. A few of them are the same as the other expansion, but mostly they're different. Desecrate, which, you draw a card and gain 2 lore. This one here, though, you play after your opponent plays a card, and you get them as much lore as that costs, or they can't play it. They will almost always give you the lore, because when they play a big card, they're going to want to use that card. But it's just a nice, and it only costs 1. I really like it. And then there's more. Here's one that works with the hounds. Here's one you get a victory point. Here, you can order a minion in addition to the orders provided by your command card. Very simple but useful. Raise the Dead, which basically lets you bring back a unit or add another unit per se. Summon Phantasm. This comes with these markers here. You can place these on the board, and when an enemy moves into them, they will end their move and become panicked. Remember I showed you panicked before? Let's see, we got Will of the Undying and Deathmark and Dire Influence and Unholy Fervor. During this turn, friendly infantry and cavalry units have their movement values increased by 1. You want to rush an attack? This is the time to do it with Morbid Grasp, where you can pick 2 enemy units that can't move. Ah, I love that. There's one that the Banshee could just go crazy and hit a unit that's within 2 hexes of the Banshee. Now, if this is in the deck, then the Banshee becomes much better to me. Because there's always a possibility you're going to launch this, that you send that Banshee up, and you can just cut half your opponent's army, basically just stop them in their tracks and then swoop in and take them out with other units. Then there's the Shadow Assault, which I really like because it basically lets you warp a unit all the way across the board. And then End of the World, maybe my favorite lore card ever, which lets you order every friendly minion unit in addition to the order. So you can, if you have a big horde of minion units, which I will often do in my armies, you can order them all with this card, besides whatever else. Hey, I'm going to play the dragon and all my minions. Yeah, life's not going to be good for me. Yeah, this is my favorite faction, I think. I really like the undead. I like the fact that you can raise. I just love those guys who they just keep moving forward. The summoners are nice. There's just some good solid units. One of the things about Battlelore that makes it really well done is the fact that each of these units has a few special abilities, but they're very easy. And they're easy to play, and it's not super complex, and you can set it up and play it, and it looks good. This army, if you don't paint them, the purple is a very good contrast to the blue and the red that's already out there. It has a different feel than the other one. It has that typical undead, we're bringing them back. And they're not very strong, but they just keep coming and coming and coming. Of the 2 packs, this one and the Heralds of Dreadfall, I honestly don't know which one I would get first. I can't really recommend one to the other. Take a look at both my reviews, and then you tell me, you can decide which pack, or if you're like me, you get both of them. But if you force me to pick one, I might pick this one because I like the spell cards in this one maybe slightly better. But that'd be tough. And that Banshee is a really good model. But anyway, yeah, again, I'm going to get them both. What does it matter? I have them both. Anyway, that's Terrors of the Mists. Dice Tower Judgment approved.
Thanks so much for watching the Dice Tower videos. Find more great videos and reviews, as well as our top-rated audio podcast at Dicetower.com. You can also find other great shows at Dicetowernetwork.com. I'm Eric Summerer, and you've been watching The Dice Tower. The Dice Tower is sponsored by Cool Stuff Inc., where you can find great games for great prices. Cool stuff in stock. Check them out at CoolStuffInc.com.
Shut the door!